Welcome to the video series Introduction to Processing. In this video we'll talk about how to draw basic shapes with processing. Processing was actually created by a couple of students from MIT. Processing is Java, and it was designed for visual artists with little programming experience so that they can still create animation and games and art without all the complicated Java syntax. There are a lot of libraries that allow us to work with computer vision, music, networking, 3D drawings, etc. This is the first of two video series. In the first series, we'll go through and talk about basic shapes, animation, keyboard and mouse inputs, images, sounds, and we'll talk about how to make a program object-oriented, and we'll talk about p-vector, transformations, all the basic stuff that we need to do animation. In the second series, we'll take a project-based approach, and we'll do projects that are physics simulations, ball collisions, reflections, kinematics, and we'll talk about how to use animated sprites to make games like Street Fighter. So this is not a Java programming course. There's a lot of videos and tutorials online. We won't directly cover topics like conditionals, loops, arrays, or objects, but we'll use a lot of these anyway, so if you come from a different language, then this should be very easy to pick up. And even if you haven't programmed before, processing Java is very friendly and it's very easy to learn. So you can download processing at the following website. So if I open up processing, this is what it looks like. This is a sketch, which is a program. So for example, I can start by specifying the size of my program. So say I want to make this 600 pixels across, 600 pixels height. If I run that, then I get a window that is 600 pixel width, and the height is also 600 pixels. Now the only thing is that the coordinate system and processing is a little bit different. The origin is top left corner, and then the x-axis positive direction is going right, and then with the y-axis positive direction is actually going down. So this is a little bit different, but we'll get used to it very quickly. If I want to draw a line, then it's very simple. You say line point A, which is x1, y1. That's the coordinate of the first point, and then the coordinate of the second point, x2, y2. Again, the unit here is the pixels. And so, for example, line 1252 is the line from 1 to 1 pixel in the x direction, 2 pixel in the y direction, all the way to 5, 2, which is point B. So, for example, I come back here and I say line. Let's say let's do 100, so 100 pixel across, 100 down, and 200 across, 100 down, and I run that and I get a line. And a rectangle is also very simple. You say RECT, rect, XY, which is the coordinate of the rectangle, and then the width and the height. By default, XY is actually the top left corner of the rectangle. So for example, rect 1, 2, 4, 3 is 1, 2 is the top left corner, the width is 4 pixels, and the height is 3 pixels. So for example, I can close this and do a rectangle at position 400 by 100, and the width, let's say 80 pixels, and then the height is 40 pixels. If I do that, I get my rectangle. And then we can also change the mode of the rectangle so that the center is at the center of the rectangle rather than the top left corner. In a lot of applications, this might make the math easier. And so if we specify the mode of the rectangle, we can say rect mode center, everything's capitalized. Then the center of the rectangle XY is now the actual center of the rectangle. So for example, 3, 2, that's the 3, 2, which is the center of this rectangle, with the width and the height. So we'll just do that a little bit later. Then here's how you do an ellipse. Again, you specify the coordinate of the ellipse, which is the center of the ellipse by default. So 3, 3 in this example. Then the width, which is the length of this axis, and the height, which is the length of this axis. So for example, I can stop this. Let's do ellipse. Let's say I make it at 250. I'm just making random points on the screen here. say 200 by 200. So this says that the width is 200, the height is 200. So this is a circle on the screen. So if I run that, I get a circle. So now we can talk about color. We can fill some of these shapes with color. Grayscale is 8-bit color, which means you can go from 0, which is black, all the way to 255, which is white, and all the different 256 shades of gray from 0 to 255. RGB is red, green, or blue. You specify how much red, how much green, how much blue, and combine that to get a color. So this is how colors mix. For example, red plus green is yellow. So this is light mixing and not paint mixing. So this is a little bit different. But these are the different combinations you can get. So we can fill all of our shapes by using the fill method. So we specify RGB and then the alpha component. So RGB is red, green, blue, and those have range from 0 to 255. And then the alpha component tells you the transparency of the fill. So 0 is completely transparent, and 255 is completely opaque. So for example, I can go back to this, and I can start filling some of these shapes with color. So for example, I can say fill 200. So this is a little bit of a grayish fill. So that now, when I say a fill, then the rest of the shape has that fill unless we change the fill. So in this example, if I fill with that, then everything will be that grayish color. Now, if I want to change that fill, so for example, if I do a fill here for, say, a red, so all red, no green, and no blue, then my ellipse would now be a red color. And so if I want to change the fill again to say something, say blue fill, and let's just do another ellipse. So now this is the blue fill. So here it is, the red fill, and now this is the blue fill. Let's do a rectangle with a different center. So again, if I do rect, XY will be the top left corner. But if I specify the mode, rect mode, and specify the center as the mode, then XY is now the center of the rectangle. So now the center is, say, 300, 500 pixel. Let's make this into a square. So if I run that, so notice that this fill right here, which is a blue fill, makes this ellipse blue. And because the fill has not been changed, this rectangle is also blue. So for example, this is blue, and so is this. So whenever I have a fill, that fill is valid until I change it. And finally, we can do text by saying text, the string that we want, the position that we want it at. Text size can help you specify the size of the text. Text align can make that text align center align. So for example, this text size is 32, align center. We're going to print out hello at this position, 200 pixel on the X, 300 pixels on the Y axis. So for example, let's go back here and just do some text. So the text size, let's just say 32. Text align. Let's make this center. Oh, I misspelled line, so GN, and then finally the actual text itself. So we need to put this in quotation for the string. So hello, for example, word, and then position says at 300 and say 50. So now I stop and I rerun this, and I have my text at the top of the screen right here. There we go. That's basically how we draw some of the basic shapes. So this is a static sketch, meaning that there's no animation. It's just one image, one frame. So in the next video, we'll talk about how to animate our shapes. We'll do this by using the setup and the draw methods. The draw method, for example, will allow us to draw frames at a high rate, creating this illusion of animation. So we'll do that in the next video. So a few more things that you can try on your own is you can draw triangles, you can do a lot of other shapes. You can play around with the stroke, for example. The stroke is the outline of your shape. The stroke weight is the thickness of that outline. and you can play around with other shapes by using begin shape. So begin shape, you specify the vertices of the shape, and in this argument, if I close it, then it will close the other vertices so that we have a shape. So with this, you can basically draw anything you want. Okay, so here's some references. Some of these pictures come from the tutorials on processing.org. This is a great website, has a lot of really great tutorials, so I encourage you to look at that.